Cracker Barrel is on the verge of getting destroyed as Steak and Shake CEO Sardar Biglari steps in with a bold proxy fight that, if done right, could cause a massive backfire even bigger for the current leadership. Now, Cracker Barrel is being run into the ground, as you all know, by a CEO who has weakened the brand itself, frustrated shareholders, and left the company just trailing behind its competitors. Now, as you all know, Cracker Barrel used to be known for stability, strong dividends or profits, and customer loyalty, but now it faces declining sales and a broken identity. And that decline is exactly why Sardar Biglari, who already leads Steak and Shake, is preparing for a proxy fight to take the board seats and push the CEO of Cracker Barrel out. Now, his challenge is that BlackRock and Vanguard just simply stand in the way, but he's betting shareholders are fed up with how badly Cracker Barrel has been managed and stuff. Okay, so now Biglari, who already runs Steak and Shake and has built a reputation for, his aggressive investing, sees an opening. You see, he's not just watching this collapse at all. He's preparing a proxy war to take control of board seats and force a change. You see, his target is the CEO, and he knows the brand can't survive with under her leadership. But his fight isn't simple. You see, the biggest roadblocks aren't just, isn't just the board itself. It's BlackRock and Vanguard. And the institutional giants, as you all know, usually back management no matter how bad things look. In other words, they're investing in everything that's woke. Okay. So yeah, these massive asset managers rarely side with activists. Well, actually, they do side with activists, but their default is stability and maintaining relationships. But for Biglari, that means he can't just, shout about failure. He has to prove it with cold numbers and undeniable comparisons. Now, as you all know, BlackRock and Vanguard don't care about, customer backlash or even feedback or even the cultural drift. They care about stock price performance against peers and whether the dividend looks secure and stuff, especially when it comes to woke ideology. To get them on board, Biglari has to make the case that the CEO is a direct threat to shareholder value as well as their value. So that's where the comparison to the other restaurant chains actually comes in. You see, Cracker Barrel has underperformed against places like Texas Roadhouse, against Darden, even mid-tier casual dining competition. Same store sales for Cracker Barrel are weaker, traffic is failing, margins are shrinking, shareholders aren't, getting rewarded. You see, the CEO has spent time and money chasing branding experiments that, alienated loyal customers instead of just focusing on what worked and keeping them. Now, it's not about nostalgia, it's actually about basic competence. And Biglari's first weapon in this fight is pointing out how badly Cracker Barrel has actually lined behind its peers. Okay, but proof alone won't be enough. You see, if he wants to win this, Biglari he's been after Cracker Barrel for years. The board paints him as disruptive, as someone driven by ego. Now, if he comes across as loud and personal, he loses credibility. Institutions won't touch him if they think this is, just a grudge match. And that means he needs a polished case. Now, a professional campaign book that shows the governance failures, the stock underperformance, the bad capital allocation. He has to look like the disciplined adult in the room, even if his style is naturally aggressive. And that's where the proxy advisory firms has come in. ISS and Glass Lewis are the real swing players in a fight like this. You see, BlackRock and Vanguard use their recommendations as cover. If ISS or Glass Lewis back Biglari's nominees and stuff, well, the institutions will fall in line, and that means Biglari's strategy isn't just attacking management. It's persuading the advisors. But at the same time, if you remember, Glass Lewis are also responsible for, hiring the failure of the Bud Light marketing. And if he can actually show them, the failures of their own, as well as, the Cracker Barrel as being similar, maybe he could win them over. But he has to give them data that they can't ignore, a clear governance case, and a credible plan. Now, if these reports recommend change, well, the biggest shareholders will follow. All right. Now, on top of, the institutional fight, there's the retail base itself. Now, Cracker Barrel isn't like, some faceless tech company. A lot of its investors are long-term retail shareholders, people who like the steady dividend and the brand identity. You see, they're not happy with the CEO either. Now, for them, Biglari can run a campaign that actually taps into tradition. Cracker Barrel used to be about stability, consistency, and value. Okay. But now management has endangered the very dividend. What else? Damaged the brand and even confused the customer base. Now, that message resonates with small investors who actually care about the company as more than a ticker symbol. But retail investors may not hold the majority, but in a close proxy fight, I mean, every percentage point does matter. You see, if Biglari can energize the base, that base with open letters, social media, and even grassroots efforts around, the restaurants themselves, it actually adds real weight to this challenge. Now, he can frame himself as the defender of Cracker Barrel's roots, while the CEO is the one who gambled with its identity. You see, it's actually hitting the emotional side of investing, that institutions overlook. Now, coalition building may be another crucial step. You see, Biglari can't afford to be the lone wolf. Other funds exist that are unhappy with how Cracker Barrel has performed, but it seems to me that they might be scared. Value investors see the same problems that he does. A company with real estate, a recognizable brand, and potential for a turnaround, but saddled with bad leadership. Now, if Biglari can quietly align with those funds, well, it actually stops looking like one man's crusade and starts looking like a unified shareholder movement. Now, that particular unity matters when he's trying to prove credibility. Okay. Now, credibility also means discipline. You see, this Biglari has to avoid any appearance of running a vendetta against Cracker Barrel. If he frames this as Biglari versus Cracker Barrel, he loses. The board would love to play that angle, painting him as, a disruptive outsider who just wants control. Now, instead, he needs to frame it as shareholder versus failure. Now, every message has to actually, hammer the same point. Management destroyed value and shareholders have a better option. Now, keep it about results, not personalities. That's something that he has to do. Now, at the same time, he has to be clear about what change looks like. You see, you don't win over ISS, Glass Lewis, or BlackRock, or even Vanguard with just criticism. They need to see a credible alternative plan. And that could mean, operational discipline, a back to basic strategy with the menu, or even unlocking value by simply just spinning off real estate. Now, the plan doesn't need to reinvent the company itself. It just has to show that he understands how to stop the bleeding and just stabilize the brand itself. Now, if he lays that out clearly, it makes the current CEO look even weaker by comparison person. Okay. But another thing to consider is that, he doesn't even have to get everybody on board. All he has to do is just get a certain majority or percentage and stuff on board, and that way he'll be able to win it if done correctly. So, what can Biglari actually do to win? Well, first, he needs to reframe the entire conversation around shareholder value. Okay. Now, every word, every chart, every comparison has to show that the current CEO isn't just unpopular, she's just destroying money and losing it. Second, he has to lock down the ISS and Glass Lewis with a polished case. Third, he also needs to rally retail shareholders with a message about, just simply protecting tradition and dividends. And he needs to also build alliances with other funds, so it's not just him standing alone. You see, that's the road to victory in this proxy fight, or there may be other ways that are better. And BlackRock and Vanguard, may look like, unbeatable obstacles, but their loyalty is only skin deep. You see, they don't care about, management loyalty when there's, evidence of incompetence. But at the same time, they're the reasons why everything that's woke go broke. But they also care about protecting their capital and their agenda. If Biglari lines up the advisory firms and shows that the CEO has tanked results, even if it's against BlackRock or Vanguard, even the biggest institutions will fold. And they want cover to switch sides, and he could give it to them, but they're not going to take it, of course. I mean, that's how he overcomes the giants. Okay, so basically, Cracker Barrel is definitely at a crossroads. The board for Cracker Barrel wants to protect the CEO, the institutions want stability, and customers are just simply walking away. Biglari is betting that shareholders are tired of watching the value of Cracker Barrel slip. If he's disciplined, data-driven, and strategic, he can win. But if he falls back into personal battles and ego-driven messaging against Cracker Barrel, the board will bury him again. But this is his moment to prove that he's more than an agitator. This is his moment to prove that he can actually lead a turnaround. Okay, so the fight isn't just, about Cracker Barrel. It's about whether activist investors can actually hold failed management accountable. Okay, when it comes to institutions default to the status quo. Now, if Biglari succeeds, it shows that even the biggest shareholders can be forced to back change when the evidence is overwhelming. Now, if he fails, well, it just reinforces the idea that boards can run companies into the ground with no consequences. I mean, that's why this whole proxy battle matters beyond just, one chain of restaurants. Now, the outcome is uncertain, but one fact isn't. The CEO of Cracker Barrel already damaged Cracker Barrel in ways that can't be denied. You see, the numbers actually tell the story. The comparison tells the story. Shareholders also aren't blind to what's happening either. Now, whether Biglari can capitalize on that frustration depends on his ability to shift the conversation away from himself and onto the failures of management. Now, if he does, the brand has a shot at recovery. If not, the decline continues, and loyal investors and customers are just left holding the bag. So let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below. Be sure to smash the like button, share the video far and wide across social media. Subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell for future uploads, notifications, and I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, peace.